keep working, or keep on working too.
Yeah, so it's just a
I'm glad
big,
you're still working and you're still.
yeah.
Still
Well,
got
you
the
know,
touch.
it's a big thing to have that kind of support is, you know, like the luckiest person on the planet. So, and to have Karin, and Karin is here, which is an even more, you know, emotional thing because of everything that's been happening. So this is awesome to have her here, you know, and the whole team that works here. You know, they're the best. So, God damn it, so good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, I don't know what this is, after that, I just, want to make sure that's very clear to people that, you know, it's such a honor to have, to be supported like that, and, means the world to me, so that's good. And, after that, you guys just answer questions, or anybody else wants to shoot the shit. we can do that.
I have a couple questions.
Yes.
I want to see birds a lot in your pictures, and is it symbolic of something for you?
It's mainly just my life experience. You know, I've when I was really young, I got randomly into the sport of falconry, so I had a bunch of hawks and falcons when I was really young, and then after that was over, then I got into parrots, and I had a million parrots that are crazy fuckers. They're crazy. They're the most interesting things on earth, or whatever. They're really so a lot of them is kind of birds that I had, or you know that I literally lived with and got pooped on by, and
Might be your spirit animal.
yeah. Well, yeah. Between the hawks and the parrots, it's the birds in general. I think are just they're amazing. You know, I'm a big bird fan.
And you have a relationship with crows too, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm feeding it every day now at my house. I have a new thing at the market of choice chicken carcass. They like to pick and stuff. You know, and you leave it in the morning, and by the afternoon, you know, they've moved it all over the table, and then, you know, you'll come in at like, you know, almost like 2/3 with chicken, and then by 5 o'clock when it's getting dark, the thing is scoured. Yeah, crows they're even more of a trip. And I realize in my own neighborhood, they're like gang members. They follow everything. They know your car. They know all the different people. They know it's a tripper. I'd like to have one. I rescued one time. I had one for about 6 months, and talk about birds pooping. I remember at my dad's, after he died, I got his speakers. He had these amazing clip-shorn speakers that were like this, you know, expensive, wonderful things or whatever. And then for my dad's input, after the crow was there for 6 months, there was a layer like 2 inches thick. Oh yeah, there it is. More information than anybody.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I have a question,
Yes.
because it was a question I got earlier today that I just made up my own answer for based on maybe
That's what I always
all
did when I
different.
was teaching.
Yeah. Well, based on how I think of you as working, but they were asking me about color, and they said, well, does he start with black and white before going into color? And I said, I think he starts his compositions working with like a sepia tone, and then builds in color and does glazing, you know. But I think I should hear it from you to make sure I didn't completely make that up.
No, it's just a traditional, a lot of traditional oil painting that there's different terms for it, but you basically start with a monochromatic 3-step, you know, brown, neutral brown, and the white of the canvas and black. And I think from my printmaking history, that's really, you know, in terms of building depth really quickly at the beginning of the painting, and making sure stuff's in the right place, you know, because you can fix stuff and move stuff. But and then if you get a good underpainting, like and a lot of times they happen like in an hour and a half, and they're just like they either come out, and when they do, then you're almost like it's almost a lock. You know, you can still. Sorry, pardon my French, but I mean, you can still it can still fail miserably, but when the pieces are in the right place and you have three places in space, the white of the canvas, middle gray, and a dark, and then you set up your edges, and a lot of the battle, I always think of it as like a football game or war or something. It's like if you do that fairly well, the chances of the image being successful are quite good. And then the color thing is you can warm stuff up, you can cool it down, you can essentially put what do they call it? Specific color in specific places, and kind of build around that. I'm not a natural colorist person at all. I wish I was. My mom was really good at color. I'm terrible at it or whatever. So I think I kind of do it from the printmaking thing, and then I've learned these systems that seem to work. And I was pretty proud of this show because I actually kind of changed. Well, now I'm looking around it. I didn't really bust out of my cage that much, but I did a little bit.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I'm just wondering why certain people just know, color. The way that they put paintings together is very different. The classical colorists or whatever, they don't think in black and white like I do at the beginning. And then I'm thinking like once your brain, I don't know if it's a male female thing, or once your brain is a certain way, like I don't know if you can ever like overcome it. Like I don't know if I could ever just become like a natural color person or whatever.
But people come in and they love your color, so.
Yeah, but I can hear all my teachers in my history or whatever. It's like they're like, you don't know shit. You're like, your color's terrible, And my mom could just. I think she kind of thought in color. She didn't think, and she just wasn't trained the way I was trained or whatever. And I don't know. It's color is kind of, I think at the end of the day, I don't want to reduce it to something like that either. It's basically math. In some ways, color is math, and once you understand the math, you can. But I'm like not good at math, so. Clearly.
So I have another question. So this is really a beautiful painting. It's outstanding. I've been looking at it all night. And I'm just wondering, some of it's like it's color but impressionistic in your mind. Are you able to talk through how you got this and how it ended up, and sort of the process?
Well, I've kind of done a version of this painting a lot of times. I'm very enamored of certain periods of painting, when kind of classical periods of painting, because it's just like I wish I could do that or whatever. And you can try, and each year I get a little closer, but like when you actually see the original ones and the real thing, it's like, dude, you're miles away from being that good or whatever.
Like Sargent, you mean?
Yes, well, Sargent is the ultimate. He's my ultimate, go-to person. But there are even a lot of second string, people historically that weren't big names or whatever, but because of the academic culture and schools where people went to life drawing class for 5 hours a day and color classes for 5 hours a day and whatever, their paintings have this quality where it's just like, oh God, I wish I could do that. It's like you just gotta lock down and try to do that or whatever. It's like, shit, I try as hard as I can, but man, the interesting thing about the whole tightness thing though is when you look at Sargent or whatever, and I'm realizing in this show, because I worked so hard, I tried so, and I was spending so much time and trying to tighten down on paintings or whatever, I just realized it's kind of like wire walking, whatever. If the movement is not spontaneous, like as soon as you start tightening up and thinking about what you're doing, often it's dead. Like it's just not. You almost have to be kind of just in this flow of not thinking and doing stuff. And when you look at that, like John, everybody thinks, oh, Sargent's, societal portraits are really tight or whatever. It's like when you stick your nose in those things, they are not tight. They're like there's no brush stroke that isn't,
Right.
I don't think he ever went.
We're saying is it's very sort of right brain, so it's not like logical. Everything's in the right place.
Well, painting is just an endless, crazy.
you're in a zone, you know, it's kind of zone.
It is, but then
feel
you can come in, you can think you're killing it, and then you leave the studio, and then you walk in the next morning, and you're like, you know, you can go to bed, I killed it, like that painting is awesome. And then you come in the morning and you open the door, and it's like, man, I was like shit. You know, I mean, it just does. It's weird. It's hard on your brain, frankly, and you just have to kind of, you know, then you go in and you start kind of fix, you know, like, okay, let's move stuff around. For me, the big thing is to learn, like, when to just say, stop, leave it alone. It's very difficult. You know, it's part of the endless battle. You know, I like the cat. I have a new adopted. I have all these cats in my neighborhood. I feed like 8 cats, and you know. And this new one is this size, it's a black Siamese cat.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it
And
is.
he's a trip. Barnabas, I call him Barnabas. He has fangs that stick out his mouth.
Is that a little animal at Curve Feet in that umbrella painting?
Yeah. Snowy owl.
Snowy owl.
Oh, no.
Her pet owl.
What I've been looking at this for 10 minutes too. I didn't see the cat until you mentioned it. I totally looked, it just blended into the background because it's black.
Yeah.
This is the cat.
I think your dog is one of the best clients I've ever had. Gallery. Very calm. Is it a she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very calm.
Yeah. Very relaxed.
Yeah. Well, now I get to do, this is what's fun for me, since it's such a small group, you know. I always like to pull, like, my big thing lately, which is kind of a mind, you know, crushing thing, but just realizing that people really I don't think people see the same thing at all. I remember when I first started, you know, drawing class, and we'd sit there, it's like, we're drawing a cup, you know, and it's like, you think everybody sees the same cup, right? So we can measure it, and it's this wide, and it looks like this. And when you teach for long enough, or I realized right at the beginning, it's like, I think maybe people are not all seeing the same cup. You know, and when it comes to paintings, I realize, like, every person that walks in the door, I can work on it as a painter, and I have this whole relationship with it or whatever, and, you know, but it's just kind of a trip to realize that every person that lays eyes on something, or even what I was just describing about, my brain can look at the painting when I'm working on it for 8 hours in a day, or 6 hours or something, and you leave at night, you're like, no man, I killed it, it's perfect, this looks like this. And then you come in the morning, and it's like, the light's different, everything's different, and things have changed, or whatever, you know, it's just, it's a very relative thing. And then you realize that's what scares me about bringing people to the studio, or clients, or whatever, you know, that's why it's amazing for what you guys do, or whatever, is that I realize I'm thinking, oh, everybody sees, just what you said, you didn't even see the cat, I didn't even see the cat in there. I mean, you know, people just bring their own visual architecture to the stage or whatever, you know, and I don't know if it's your entire history, the color of your sheets when you were a kid, you know, the street you grew up on, you know, people, I think they kind of force their own belief system onto the paint here or whatever. Just for me, I'm always thinking like, oh, everybody sees it just like I do, and they're gonna like it because I like it or whatever, and I think it's a very, very odd.
Well, that's really a profound metaphor. I mean, for the individual. I mean, the subjectivity of every human being. I mean, we are all so different, even though they say we're alike. We're really different, and I appreciate your saying that no one sees the same thing.
Well, it's just kind of horrifying, actually. I mean, you kind of think that they do, and you know, if you drive a car or whatever, like, I hope they're seeing what I'm seeing or whatever. But I mean, you know, in general, in broad block terms, I think people do. But when you get down to things like paintings, and especially paintings as opposed to prints or whatever. I don't know what it is about paintings because of the surfaces and the way that paint is layered on there or whatever. It's like they're particularly subjective, and it's just fascinating. It's just terrifying as the artist, you know, like, oh, I worked so hard to make it look like this. And this person walks in, you realize, oh man, all they see is just, I see this blue that I had, like, you know, when I was a kid. It was on my, you know, bedspread or whatever. I mean, you just don't know what it is that triggers people's, you know, interior iconography or whatever words you want to ascribe to it. It's a trip. So somebody tell me now. I get to quiz you guys since you're quizzing me. Tell me what you like, because for me it's interesting to see. Like, I wish I could. Well, I probably don't want to know. Like, who comes in like, I love that one or I hate that one or whatever. I mean, you have pieces that usually I think I know. Like, oh, people are going to love this one or they're going to particularly like this kind of thing. But I'm usually wrong. You know. Is that?
Excuse me, I don't
No,
know.
no.
But the painting that I have that I told you about, Adam painted 3 giant paintings that were at the Xenon, which was the best.
That's right. Yeah.
It was the best restaurant in Eugene, and it was sold after it by the owner because they couldn't make it. And then he had 3 paintings, huge, that were sold the person who bought it ended up selling them, I guess, when the restaurant didn't go. And I ended up
He left in the middle of the night. You don't know that whole
No.
the whole story. Yeah, this new punk kid from California bought it from David Counter, and you know, he thought, oh, running a restaurant's going to be easier. And I don't know if he had a blow problem or something, you know, the kid. But within 3 months, he drove the restaurant into the ground, and he literally didn't tell the employees or anything. They came in the morning, and there was just a tape thing on the thing like the restaurant is closed. Nobody got paid or anything, but he stole my entire giant mural off the wall.
There were 3 of them, and so
Yeah, they were like 80 by 80 inches.
So this woman had told me about your painting, and it was a consigned design, and it was like marked out because he tried to
$20.
No, it wasn't. He tried to sell it to Karen, and she wouldn't take it because she had a relationship with you. So
And I was mad because I liked them there. They felt like public art. But I'm glad you have one.
I want to know who the favorite one was in the middle. The 2 on the sides were kind of, one was a Degas kind of ripoff, and one was a Hopper kind of base thing. But the one in the middle was this kid eating a piece of pie, a little kid sitting alone at a table eating a piece of pie with this little hole or painting behind him of somebody looking down at the kid or whatever. And I just thought, that was actually like, as my mom always said, you were a better painter when you didn't know what you were doing or whatever. I was like, that painting was pretty good.
Which one do you have?
I have the one with a man is sitting at a table.
Oh,
It
you got
almost
that-
looks like
that's
a
the Degas
turkey,
one, yeah.
the turkey and 2 children.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm bringing this up is that as every time I look at it, I see more things than I ever saw before when I first got
I think
it.
that's why people buy paint. I mean, that's why paintings. I've had so many people tell me that, Adam, we sit down at breakfast and your painting's sitting there, and we've been looking at it for 15 years, and every time I sit down, I see something new or whatever. It's that's kind of cool. I mean, you know, that's and then I think the way paintings are made. You know, as a printmaker, you know, I spent so many hours of my life like scratching into a metal plate where everything is very precise and prescribed and fixed in space or whatever. And painting, I just think, you know, it's like weather. It's like you know, it changes every minute of every day. It's good.
Any other comments or questions? We have new people in. Okay, well, I guess we can all just pour a glass of wine and enjoy. Thank you, Adam.